Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rutherford County School Board meeting for February 23rd, 2023. First on our agenda is a Pledge of Allegiance by Ms. Joanne Robichaud. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. We're going to have a moment of silence for the Smyrna High School family again tonight. Okay. So first on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Thank you. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Anyone wish to abstain? Approval of the agenda is passed. Approval of the consent agenda. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell.
Second.
Thank you, Ms.
Bratton.
Bratton. Ms. Bratton.
Okay.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or wish to abstain? Motion passes for the approval of the consent agenda. Tonight, we have a visitor. We have one visitor, and that is Mr. Chase Williams.
Normally, I come to point out when you're doing something wrong. But tonight, I have to point out something that you did very well Tuesday night. And that was the unity that all the board members shared by wearing the T-shirts representing the schools they represent. I know that a lot of the educators, because I know some of them, they all appreciate that you show that level of unity. Unity does not always mean that you're going to agree. That's just part and parcel in a debate in a constitutional republic. You're allowed to disagree. But unity also means that you take a moment, you pause, you respect your fellow board members' time when they're speaking. Because at the end of the day, whether those that are sitting in the gallery or those that are sitting in front of me, we're all united in one goal. We want to empower our students to have a better future. We want to leave our posterity the same inheritance that all of you and myself inherited. To be happy, to be healthy. And since this board was seated for the first time Tuesday night, I saw unity. And I hope that each one of you will let that kind of ring in your ear. You know, my grandfather was an old Navy salt dog, and he used to tell me when I would have these decisions I would have to make of great importance in my own life, he would say, look up and see what's out there. At the end of the day, we're all here, whether elected officials or those of us that work for elected officials that advise them, we're all here, we're all unified in the one purpose. We all have a servant's heart. We're not here for greater power, we're not here for our own glory, but we're here to make sure that the next generation has the tools they need to live a good life and to provide a great future for our country. So those in the audience, I would ask you to give this board a round of applause because Tuesday night they did something really good, and I would ask you to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. So, number 7.
All right, number 7. So this is something we started at our last board meeting at the 1st of February, is sometimes we can get stuck only looking at the policy, the procedures, the day-to-day operations of our district, but that helps us lose focus of what's truly going on the day-to-day. We're going to recognize one of our employees first. So we're going to recognize Joanne Robichaud. Joanne is in our purchasing department, but Joanne fills just about every single role possible. She is one of our 2 purchasing agents. She helps us pretty much serve as one of the main 2 people, along with Lynn, who is here as well. Lynn's also our purchasing agent, and I can't tell you how much they have to process through our procurement process and just are vital to our district operating. I was able to work with Joanne in opening Rocky Fork Middle School, And pretty much every desk, every chair, every little thing that you think or big thing in this district that gets purchased goes through one of these two ladies. And so Joanne, what I wanted to recognize her for was during the middle of this salary study, that's really an HR function, but we're in the middle of doing a salary study while we're trying to operate the school year. And so Joanne had to step up, and she served as the point person for our salary study. She was the point person for, you guys all are aware that we have a very archaic payroll system, to put it nicely, that's DOS-based on bar paper. And it's not going to be a surprise to anyone that our information was not very accurate. Pay amounts were accurate, but what's the person's title? Who do they report to? It was in god-awful shape, and still is. We're in the middle of updating that. And Joanne had to go through and with our salary study vendor pretty much align all 6,600 or 6,200 of our employees. And that is definitely that is not within her normal day-to-day duties of being a purchasing agent. She just kind of got stuck doing that and became our point of contact. And so I want to recognize Joanne. So when we present the salary study information, we're getting close to having that finalized, and people are able to see where we are market value. Joanne deserves a lot of that credit as well, because if she didn't put that work forward, none of that would have happened. So, Joanne, I want to recognize you and thank you for all of your work that you do for us every single day. All right, and the second person we want to recognize always a student. This is one I will try not to get emotional for, but it's a personal connection as well. So we're going to recognize Isaac Oglesby. Isaac opened Rocky Fork Middle School with us in 2017, I guess, as a 7th grader. He is about to graduate from Riverdale High School. So in 7th grade, Isaac had some areas of growth that we're going to be here to honor. But a couple things that when we talk about a district doing things the right way, this is not just a Isaac success story. It's a Rocky Fork Middle, Riverdale High School, Rockville Middle School, actually in some conversations with them, our central office team. It is truly a Rutherford County success story. So first, as a human, Isaac is a leader in his family. He balances football in school. He cares for his mother, his grandmother, his 3 younger brothers. He will be the first to attend college in his family. From a football perspective, he is an All-Region Defensive Lineman of the Year, All-State Team, East-West All-Star Game, East All-Star Game MVP, and a full scholarship to Carson Newman. But before we recognize Isaac, I want to recognize a couple people as well. First, I want to recognize head coach Will Kreisky. So 4 years ago, when I moved into curriculum and instruction, I asked Coach Kreisky to please look out for Isaac. Because he was moving from Rocky Fork to Riverdale. And so, Coach Kreisky, thank you for that. And so I want to give Coach Kreisky a certificate as well here in just a second. Yeah, go ahead and come up, Coach Kreisky. I know you didn't expect that. And then second, we have 2 administrators who helped start with Isaac's journey with us at Rocky Fork. So first we have Assistant Principal Megan Turnbow. She was our academic coach at Rocky Fork Middle School. And what does that mean? That is somebody who is pretty much helping oversee some of our students to make sure they're getting ahead and catching back up where they need to be. And so she was with Isaac, myself, and Mr. Cowan as well, who I'll introduce in a second, at Rocky Fork Middle School. And then went over to Riverdale High School as their AP. Was an option for her to move from an assistant principal at Rocky Fork to assistant principal at Riverdale, and part of that I know was in part to make sure that we took care of this young man in front of us as well. So I want to recognize Ms. Turnbow. And then last, I want to recognize our other assistant principal at Riverdale High School, Mr. David Cowan. David Cowan was Isaac's football coach at Rocky Fork Middle School, and served as not just a football coach, but a friend and a mentor as well. And then had accepted a job at Rockville High School to be a football coach with them. Had an opportunity to move as an assistant principal, and I would be lying if I didn't say that it would have been helpful for me to also have another eye to look out for Isaac there, and I may or may not use that as well in the recruitment strategy. So thank you, Coach Cowan, for all that you do as well. Yeah, so I did that with Isaac standing up there on purpose because it truly has been, any time that I'm at Riverdale, I always make sure that I get to go check on Isaac, and Isaac has become kind of a personal friend, somebody that you look out for, and that you want to make sure that you were taken care of. Isaac, I can tell you how proud I am of you because you've come a really far way. And it's an honor to hopefully be able to be there, and I should be for Riverdale High School's graduation as you walk across that stage. And then I hope to be able to be invited to your college graduation after that. And so I'm super proud of you, and I want to dedicate this to you as well.
Thank you.
You good, Isaac? You want to say something? You're good.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I just want to thank the Lord for just bringing me here today and giving me all these people in my corner, ready for me to just do the best thing that's for me and my future. And it's been very hard in my life, you know. I never had it easy like everybody else in this room. And, you know, I feel like the challenges made me who I am today. And it's just great to know that I got all these people in my corner that loves me and just cares for me the most. And I couldn't begin just saying that this is where I want to be and this is where I know I need to be. And God gave me everything, every tool that I needed to build my foundation off of. And it's been great. And just throughout all these years, when I moved to Rutherford County, you know, I was just this quiet kid that didn't know where I was going at the time. I was going through things, you know, and I just seen a vision that this is my way to get out. This is my way to perfect my craft and do what I always wanted to do since I came out the womb, and that was play football. And I couldn't do that without the people that's in my corner now. And I want to thank the Lord for that today. And I'm serious. I love y'all.
Thank you, Isaac. We appreciate it. All right.
Okay, so, Jennifer.
All right, so Spotlight, we have Jenna Stitzel, who is here going to be representing and presenting on coordinated school health. Something I do want to call to your attention is, as part of TISA, coordinated school health is one of three, along with school safety, that no longer will have its own separate funding mechanism. Instead, it's incorporated into the base. From a district perspective, what we will do is we will go ahead and make sure that we leave that funding line in there. I know across the state there have been conversations with different directors who have said they're going to do things different. We're going to keep ours the same and more than anything grow that. So, Jenna, it's all yours.
That's kind of why I wanted to come tonight, to make
Yep.
sure you guys understood what coordinated school health was and what we're doing, because some of you guys don't even know what we're doing out there. First of all, I've been doing this job for 13 years, so I love it. I'm a product of Rutherford County. I graduated from Oakland, and can you hear me? I graduated from Oakland in 2002. I have a daughter, Willa. She's 7. She's at McFadden, so I'm invested in Rutherford County. The health of these kids is important to me, and coordinated school health exists to eliminate the barriers to learning. Because if these kids aren't healthy and they're not in the classroom, what are we doing? So, can you go to that next one? There's a lot of information in a few amount of slides, and they're in that folder that I gave to you. And I'm not going to go over everything, but I wanted you to have all the information. So, if you want to email me later, I can talk about things more. I'm just going to kind of try to run through to save some of the time. Coordinated School Health started as a grant from the CDC. So Tennessee picked it up from the CDC. All of it was funded from them. None of it was from the state. It was only in a few districts. It went very well. So in 2000, and the law is in there, in 2000, Tennessee made coordinated school health law. So we're the only state in the country where coordinated school health is law. So there's someone that does my job in every district in Tennessee. So the state funded it. It's $15 million. It has been the same since 2000. There's never been one penny added. That's important. Rutherford County adopted it in 2008. We were the last district to adopt it. I came in 2010. In Rutherford County, we got $180,000 in our grant. So that has been the same amount the entire 13 years I've been here. We've not got one penny more. And there's only 2 of us. So it's myself, and then Holly Patterson is the data analyst. So it's the 2 of us. So everything you see going on, it's the 2 of us doing all that work. We've really become like liaisons kind of between central office and the PE and health teachers. Over 13 years, most of the PE and health teachers now are just my really good friends. And they don't get a lot of funding or help for equipment, and in-service is hard for them. So we do all that. They send me wish lists for equipment, curriculum, materials. I find in-services for them and try to get that set up as much as I can. I'm just trying to help them as much as I can. And then, of course, if new laws come down, anything regarding physical activity, physical education, I have to make sure they know what that is, that they understand that. And I'll go into detail on some of those later. So, these are the components. I'm not going to go over all of them right now. I just want you to see what all is encompassed in coordinated school health. It's a lot of things. I have really good partnerships with most of our leads over these areas, so I'm really able to focus a lot of our energy on our student health.
We also point out it is not nursing, so that is a common
I'm
misconception.
not nursing, right.
Coordinated
Nursing
school health is not nursing, so it's a lot of times a common misconception in the community.
I get a lot of phone calls about immunizations and things, and that's not me. Yeah. We have a really strong partnership with the nurses, which I'll talk about in a little bit. You want to go to the next one? So there is a coordinated school health office based out of the Tennessee Department of Education in Nashville. So that's where all of our requirements come from. We sign an MOU at the beginning of the year. And so to stay in compliance with that and to make sure we get that grant money every year, these are all the things that I have to make sure gets done every year. The district application, that's the biggest part of it. That is the grant application. And it's basically asking me what I did the entire year, checking off all the boxes and putting in all of the data, which I'll show you later. The BMI and the health screenings, they take up a lot of our time, and I'm going to go into a lot of detail on that because I think you probably want to know a lot about that. Wellness policies, I always update that, and I'm a member of the Rutherford County Wellness Council, so I represent us at that every month. All right, so the health screenings, these are a big deal. There is a letter in that folder from a parent. We got that last year, and I blacked out the name of the parent, but it's her story of some things we found on her child as a result of that screening. Probably saved that child's life. So that was really impactful for me. I just wanted you guys to see that. We screen grades K2, 4, 6, and 8. So height, weight, blood pressure, hearing, vision, and color perception is what we screen on. All the kids who are screened have to have parent permission, and that's in Skyward. If we don't have permission, we're not screening those kids. We partner with the Lions Club. They do the vision on our pre-K kids just because we don't have time. We don't have time to do it. There's only 2 of us doing the screenings. We do partner with the nurses, and so they give us 2 people who help with hearing and vision. So there's 4 of us. That's not enough. Like, we're going into doing a whole, like, we did all of Rockville Elementary School today. So we're just running through kids just all day. So 4 people is not enough. So we've partnered with the CTE programs at the high schools. And so we're working with Smyrna High, Rockville High, Stewart's Creek, and Blackman High. So we have high school students coming in. And they're coming and taking blood pressure and doing vision screens on the kids. And it's super helpful because we could not do it without them. I try to get interns from MTSU, and they're hard to get. But these high school kids are great. I mean, it's a great learning experience for them, and they're really good with the kids. We partner with the nurses. The nurses don't have time to do the screenings. We run the screenings, but if a student has high blood pressure, if we get one high reading, we'll take another one ourselves. If it's still high, that kid goes to the school nurse. So we have machines. So the first 2 readings are on a machine. If those are high, that kid goes to the school nurse. They have to take it manually. If it's still high, Mom and dad get called right then, and a letter goes home, and then we do a follow-up letter. So we've caught a lot of things. We've caught diabetes, true high blood pressure. One child was in renal failure. So it's a really important partnership. And the nurses are huge because they call until they get the parent. And we've had a lot of instances where the parents have to come get the kid right now. So that's huge. So I appreciate our nurses a lot. I put the screening data, this is just this year. In your folder, there is the BMI data from all the years since I've been here is in there. And also all of the BMI data by school from last year. So you can see how each school is doing. And high schools are not in there. We don't do the high schools. It's elementary and middle. So this is just a snapshot from last year. If you're looking at the one that has the BMIs from all of the years since we started, at the bottom, the BMI gets, let me pull it up. It jumps around COVID. We didn't get to finish in 2020 because of COVID. We missed a few schools. And then the next year, it jumps huge because we had so many kids out virtual. And then the next year, we're screening less kids, but it's still really high. So I don't know, something happened during COVID. Like, I don't know if kids weren't as active or since they weren't, I don't know. But our numbers are really high. And we're almost done this year, and it's still high. So we're gonna have to do something to get it back down. Because we were okay before, and then it just shot up, you can see. Okay, so what happens to all this data? The state gives us a spreadsheet. All of the data has to go into height, weight, their blood pressure, vision. We do a PACER score for the kids, so all that goes in there. Every student gets a health report card made, which there's a copy of that in your folder also that has all the information. If that child has a referral, so if they fail the vision screen, then the letter gets mailed home. This is important. We don't give the letters to the kids. We don't tell the kids anything. The information goes in the letter and it gets mailed home addressed to the parents. So we're not telling kids what their weight is, or we're not telling them any of that information. It's going straight to their parents. If the parents want to share it, that's their business, but we're just letting the parents know what's going on. Also, this data, every May, we put it all into one huge spreadsheet, drop all of the names out, and that gets sent to the state legislature, because that's in the law that they have to get all of our data and look at it and review it, and they use that to write laws, which I'm going to show you some of the laws that came about from this. And a major part of the data also, I use it to write grants. So $180,000 doesn't really do that much when I'm trying to pay for the equipment and all this stuff for all these schools and the walking tracks that we've put in all the schools. So putting this data in the grants has allowed me to raise a little over $1.6 million in grants. And I have a breakdown of all of the grants I've gotten since I've been here. Okay, so these are two of the laws that came about because we had data to prove what was going on with our kids and why they needed it. I won't go deep into this unless you guys have questions, but I just wanted you to know these are happening. The state is monitoring this, and we're supposed to be doing this. Okay, so we do more than this. I just wanted to show you a few things that we're doing to support the whole child. All the elementary schools have the walking tracks. Plainview, the one that y'all voted on at the beginning, was just finished a week ago, so it's done, so the kids are using that. We've bought tons of flexible seating for the kids, and that's anything from the wobble stools or the ball chairs or little fidget bands on the desks or the standing desks. There's all kinds of things. The PE, physical education, physical activity equipment, we buy tons of that for the PE teachers. Also, we buy that equipment for classroom teachers. We buy it for the schools for recess, whatever they need it for. A lot of our middle schools have fitness rooms. I started a partnership this year with a local farmer, and she grows organic strawberries, so we're paying to have strawberries brought in for all of Smyrna Elementary. So we're doing that for the first time this spring. We're going to pilot that, and it's only like $250 to buy organic strawberries for that entire school. So I'm gonna expand that next year.
We need to, I know.
Yeah, I was surprised. We got AEDs for the nurses. We've been able to get CPR kits for every middle and high school. The school nurse partnership, let's see, we've been paying for professional memberships, conferences, certification, and exams for them. Also, if they have blood pressure machines, scales, whatever that break, we replace all of those. We pay for cooking classes. So every single middle school, the Rutherford County Extension goes over and does healthy cooking classes at every middle school. So we pay for all the food for that. I work really closely with the school counselors and behavior interventionists, and we supply comm kits and comm corner equipment for a lot of the schools. We'd like to get that in all of them. Also working with, especially the high school counselors. A lot of our high school kids don't have access to hygiene items, so we buy a lot of that and give it to our counselors so they have it whenever they need that. I work with the cafeteria managers if they want like posters or the stickers or the stuff that makes the cafeteria look like, you know, like a healthy, happy, friendly place. Like the stickers that say like something about drinking more water, that type of thing. We pay for that. And then we also, many years ago, with ESSA funds, put the first round of the water stations into schools. And so now we'd like for those to be everywhere, so we're trying to, I know Trey's done a lot of work with that. So we're big fans of those. Go to the next one. So this is, there's tons of tracks, but this is just an example of one. That's one of the first ones at Cedar Grove. All the tracks have a sign that says who their sponsor is and when they were built. Go to the next one. So those are the water stations if you haven't seen them. The one in the middle is Laverne Middle's brand new fitness room. They just finished that this year, so we helped purchase some of that equipment. And then on the right, that is the fitness room at Stewart's Creek Middle. And when the hospital, I don't know if y'all remember when the hospital was in the old location, but when they moved to where they are now, they had a gym. That was their equipment, and they were giving it away. So I went and got it. And we put it at Stewart's Creek Middle. So they have a fitness room now. Go to the next one. And this is an example of some of the flexible seating that we've put in. A lot of the teachers, if you can see in the middle of that standing desk, you can just lower it up and down. A lot of our staff here has those. A lot of our teachers have those. They really like those. Those have been a big hit. And this is just how I end all of my slides, just proving that if you get the kids a little bit active before you do something, they're probably going to remember better. So that's it. Do you have any questions?
Dr. Sullivan, I want to interject if I may. She's very humble. She's found a lot of money, and she's figured out a way to get me to do it. So we partner, and Jenna partners very well with everybody, and a lot of what she buys on the cheap, and then we work with her to be able, all these walking tracks, it's taken her a lot of years since she started, but in conjunction with the engineering department, we've worked very well. And when we started with the water bottle fillers, she started an Avalanche, and we've continued it. But even though she started with the first ones, if she has money, she always reaches out and says, do you need some more water bottle fillers? So we're still doing it. Between the two of us, we haven't quit. And as we go through this budget process, y'all will see a number of them on my wish list. But when we can't get where we need to be, I call Jenna. So she's very humble, but she's done a lot of work with very little money, and she works hard to find these grants.
Agree. Thank you. Agree.
Done a great job. I have one question. I know some of the older schools don't have near the number of the water stations, specifically SPEC. I know that Riverdale High School has got the old water fountain from the 80s. Is there any, are you in the process of, they all have water bottles. They are really trying to get healthy. Jamie Brown, when she was a nutrition teacher, she got it into their heads. They need to drink more water. They need to, and so they all have water bottles, but they have to go to the water fountain, and some of them are still putting their mouth on it, and it's just that kind of thing. So are you in the process of fixing that? I know it's a high school, it's not an elementary school, it's a high school.
It's me.
You got it?
We have those again, and unfortunately, they've gone up astronomical. They're about $6,000 or $7,000 each once they're installed. Yeah, you've been buying them, I've been
I
paying.
know, they started at like 800 when we
Yeah, I know.
started this.
That was 10 years ago. But we continue that. They're in my budget again this year.
Yes,
Unfortunately,
Yes, they are in his budget.
he's already seen some of my budget going, what are you doing?
Yeah, what is that? Yeah.
But we've had to systematically go through there, and what we do, and I'll get with the principal, but typically, we go to the principal and says, where do you want your next ones installed? So we will,
Well, you've done amazing work. You found the grants. I saw one year you had like 200-something thousand that you found.
There were a few years where we were able to put like 3 or 4 tracks in 1 year, and I was always afraid to email Trey because I'm always gonna get it's so much extra work. But yeah, those years are when we were putting like multiple in 1 year.
But the water station is the one thing that it's kind of, I was hoping that you get that tackled soon. If we're on it, we're on it, so.
It started, that first year, it started because we paid for them with ESSA funds. And that was the plan going forward, and now we can't. So it kind of changed everything. So now I'm trying to figure
It would
out.
be nice if the federal government would make sure that all the kids had.
Because honestly, if we
Water
didn't have
station.
those during COVID, our kids would have not had access to water because they couldn't use the fountains. So,
yeah, that's how we got through COVID, was we had already started those, and we had, and I think we did 1 or 2 at each school the first round that we did.
yeah.
I mean, that's how we started, and it's amazing how many water fountains we do have. But we are getting closer to having them all. Our goal was 2 at every school, and then we started going back with 2 more. And there's quite a few of them, but it's still, it's like everything else. I mean, unfortunately, I wished I had about $100 million, but so
Yes.
I try and do, we probably have $75,000 to $100,000 in this year's budget in water bottle fillers, and there will be probably that number again. And they're scattered out across the district. We've partnered with other schools. If they have been able to find ways to fundraise, or maybe PTO, is we partner with them where they actually buy them and then we pay the labor. So we're kind of splitting it 50-50, and it's allowed us to get further along. So we're still continuing these creative ways.
I appreciate it. Y'all do a great job, and I thank you. What you've done is wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, I think you're doing amazing work. Thank you for finding creative ways to get money, and then like the equipment over there from the old hospital, that was a creative way to get equipment to our students. I do have one question. I know you brought this up in the screening, how there was something happened since COVID.
Yeah.
Is there anything particularly that stands out? I mean, it seems like the trend is going down a little bit, but it's still not to where we were.
I don't know if, like, when the kids were home during that time, if they just weren't active, because when they're at school, by law, they have to be active here. And at home, they don't have to be. So that's all I can figure. I don't know.
But there's been no change in nutrition or anything like that.
No, and I mean, we've put more equipment into the schools. Like, if you walk, I don't know if y'all have been in, so a lot of our kids are using flex seating, so they're like active all the time. So that's all I can figure out. I can't pinpoint really what else it would be.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for your presentation. This was very insightful and letting us know what the kids are doing to stay active. So they definitely need to burn some energy, especially in the lower grades. So that's good to see that. But I just want to point something out in your requirements for the grant. You said you sit on the Wellness Council. What is that? If you can give a little bit more information about that, and how big is the council and what exactly is your role there? And I'm just curious.
So it meets the first Tuesday of every month at the health department, and it's different leadership from health organizations, it's business members from the community, and we do the community needs assessment. So whenever the law was passed with Obamacare, that assessment is required now, and you have to do like every 3 years. But to go through all of the planning and all the specifics, it takes about that long. So I'm always there advocating for, and we get money sometimes from that, so I'm always there advocating for what's going on in the schools and what we need the money for. So this round, it looks like we should be getting money for the calm corners and the calm kids. Because we're trying to So I'm working with the person who does my job in Murfreesboro City. She's on it also. So we're trying to get money to do that for all Rutherford County and Murfreesboro City schools.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much for advocating for our schools. Thank you.
Thank you for the tracks, because they not only help our students, but I see their parents out walking on those tracks a lot. So that helps our community as well.
And our teachers really like them because when those kids are at recess, I see them walking around the track. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Anybody else? Number 11?
Yep, so we did 9 and 10 on our work session. Number 11, Human Resources, Tab 2, Elementary Cafeteria Monitors. Cafeteria monitor duties and responsibilities, including assisting and maintaining safe mealtime standards by monitoring, assisting students, assigning seats, resolving problems, directing students into orderly lines, and proper disposal of trays, and organizing classes for dismissal. These positions were previously funded from the Centralized Cafeteria Fund 143 and will continue to be funded in the same manner. These positions are only allocated to RCS elementary schools. Job description is included. Recommended approval. Motion to approve the elementary cafeteria monitor positions that will be under the direct supervision of the school principal and assist elementary students and cafeteria staff with certain tasks during lunch periods. The funding for these positions will be from the Centralized Cafeteria Fund 143, and the hourly rate has been budgeted to reflect such through a previously approved budget amendment.
Any questions or comments?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed or wish to abstain? Motion passes for the elementary cafeteria positions. Thank you. Number 12.
Number 12, Curriculum Instruction, Tab 3. Rutherford County Schools will have 9 high schools using Murphy Center on the Middle Tennessee State University campus to conduct their graduation ceremonies for the upcoming class of 2023. The 9 high schools include Rockville, Smyrna, Blackman, Laverne, Riverdale, Stewart's Creek, Oakland, Siegel, and Central Magnet. A proposed agreement between RCS and MTSU is attached. Payment is due no later than 30 days after the billing date. Recommended approval, motion to approve graduation agreement with Middle Tennessee State University and Rutherford County Schools concerning the graduation ceremonies for the RCS graduating class of 2023 as presented.
Any comments or questions?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Darby. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone wish to abstain or oppose? Motion passes.
Number 13, Legal Tab 4, so an Ada County transfer. The board has been requested to admit a transfer student from another school system under discipline. The student was expelled for possession of a handgun on school property, robbery, and reckless endangerment. According to policy 6.318, the board may deny admission of any student except those in state custody when a student transfers from another school system while under suspension or expulsion. Director of Schools' recommendation is to deny admission. Recommended approval, motion to approve or deny the admission of the Ada County student as presented.
Any questions?
I'd like to make a motion to deny admission.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone wish to oppose or abstain? Motion passes to deny. Number 2.
All right, number 2, Madam Chairman, are you all right if I just read the policy numbers?
Yes.
And just the little thing beside it?
Absolutely.
These are all online for anyone that's interested under the tabs for all the changes. So policy changes, A, policy 1.106, Code of Ethics. Policy 2.200, Annual Operating Budget. Policy 3.204, Pandemic Epidemic Emergency Cleaning, and that's sunsetting. Policy 3.2041, Pandemic Epidemic Face Covering Mask Requirement, sunsetting. Policy 3.208, Facilities Planning. Policy 3.211, Energy Use and Conservation. Policy 3.601, Student Insurance Program. Policy 4.603, Promotion and Retention. Policy 4.604, Credit for Prior Courses. Policy 4.605, Graduation Requirements. Policy 5.109, Evaluation. Policy 6.300, Code of Conduct. Policy 6.309, Zero Tolerance Offenses. Policy 6.319, Alternative Education. And Policy 6.413 is the prevention and treatment of sports-related concussions. We also have one new policy, which is Policy 6.604, Name, Image, and Likeness. Recommended approval, motion to adopt the above policies on the first of 2 readings as presented. So you'll see these again at your next policy meeting.
And these were already presented at the policy meeting and discussed there as well.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Rosales. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone wish to oppose or abstain? Motion passes for our policies. Thank you. Number 14.
Number 14, facilities and construction. 1, request for Smyrna High Annex bid on Thursday, February 9th, 2023. Purchasing and engineering and construction received bids for the site work and construction of the annex for Smyrna High. All bids have been reviewed in engineering and construction. Recommends R.G. Anderson's base bids plus alternate number 1 for a total bid of $30,120,000. Engineering request to also include the existing building's 282,000 square footage of roof recover system with minimal additional insulation, a high-density cover board, and a new membrane above the existing roof system at a cost of $3,500,000. Engineering and construction recommends a motion to approve the request and move forward to health and education for funding in the amount of $38,420,000. The breakdown: R.G. Anderson Construction, $30,120,000. Construction-related contracts, $1 million. Furniture, fixtures, and equipment, $1.8 million. Design, $2 million. Existing roof, $3.5 million, for a total request of $38.42 million. Recommended approval: motion to approve the recommendation of R.G. Anderson's base bid plus alternate number 1 for a total bid of $30,120,000, and move forward to health and education for funding in the amount of $38,420,000 as presented. And again, that is about $3 million under what we budgeted.
Thank you for your work on this, Mr. Lee. I know you've got a couple more to contend with, but thank you so much. Any questions or comments?
I have a comment. I have decided to abstain from discussion and vote on this matter. As I previously disclosed, I work for Pinnacle Building Services, which is a subcontractor that has done work with Rutherford County Schools and could potentially be involved with this project. Even though I have no ownership in the company and I'm only an employee, I've decided to go ahead and, in good faith, abstain.
Thank you, Mr. Tidwell.
I would like to very happily move to approve this project and get this show started.
And I'd like to second it.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone other than Mr. Tidwell wish to abstain or oppose? Motion passes.
Mr. Evans, you get that? I don't think that's the way Jennifer does it, so we just wanted to check. Yes, inside joke. All right, so number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Evans, for
Yes.
filling in tonight.
Number 2, Oakland and Riverdale Addition project updates. Anything you want to add to that, Trey? Okay,
Can't hear me nod. No, sir. No updates from the other night.
perfect. So I think one went out, and then we should get the next one next Thursday, correct?
Yeah, Riverdale will bid next Thursday, and Oakland will go out to bid on Friday,
What time is that? Do you know?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
Okay, I thought you were being silly when you were asking the time.
No, there would, you'd be, it's open to the public, so bid opening's always open. Okay.
Number 3.
So number 3, CMTA, the ESPC update. We met with CMTA yesterday along with our county finance director, had a very good meeting to kind of progress to move us forward. There are basically 4 options for us for CMTA. Number 1 and number 2 involve us going to the county commission and asking for additional funds. Those aren't necessarily options. Option 4 involved us kind of going out with CMTA and asking for our own loan, which again, we're not allowed to do as a government entity. We have to have the county commission. So option 3 is what is being investigated. We met with them yesterday and answered quite a few questions. So they are proposing a master agreement right now for us for 15 years. We are looking at not including the federal rebate at this time. We have some questions about the longevity of that because our finance director has had some experience with FEMA funds and insurance claims and that from other districts, and sometimes if those funds change, which with federal funding it can always change, it's probably better for us to go with what we can count on for sure. And so those are the numbers we are looking at from 15 years, and so once we have that contract agreement, it'll go to county's attorney, our attorney, Jeff, all of us before we present to the board, but it is moving now. You want to add to that, Trey?
Think you got it.
And so when will we expect a motion on this?
We'll probably have the contract, I'm gonna call it a draft sample contract sometime next week. Then it'll go to Mr. Reed and the county attorney and everybody. Those kind of things usually take a week or two. So I'd say it probably won't be the next board meeting, but probably the following one.
Okay, fair enough.
And then it'll go for the board for potential approval, and then it goes to the comptroller after that, and then it goes through all the county commission.
I'm sure there'll be more details, but is the removal of the federal rebate?
Yes.
Okay. Does that mean geothermal is going to be off the list?
Yes, sir.
For some, yeah. We're looking at a couple of those as well. I also want to see what our zoning study comes back at, because maybe some of those schools may not be the ones that we want to target.
So we're looking at the options of funding the geothermals as well, without the federal funds, correct?
Depends on
Maybe
what
not
schools we
5,
look
because
at,
the
yeah.
recommendation is 5 of them, so maybe down.
Yeah, we have to change some of our numbers, and looking at geothermal may not make a whole lot of sense at some of our older
Sure,
buildings if
yeah.
we're not going to use them for 30 more years.
But the HVAC is going to
Yes,
be looked
HVAC for
at.
sure.
Yeah, for sure, okay.
Number 15, because we did this Monday.
Yep, so we did the financial report. Part of this, Trey, do you want to go over, I think we were going to go over 189, so we went over one. So again, we have those 5 major funds, 141, which is general purpose, the huge one that we talk about quite a bit. 142 is federal, which usually doesn't necessarily come before board for approval. 143 is cafeteria. 177 is our capital projects. And then 189 is our building program. And so I think we're going to look at 189 tonight, correct?
Yeah, so these are,
Can we put this on the computer? These, I'm so sorry, but these numbers are so tiny, and I cannot read them. I've got good vision. I've got 20/20 in this eye and 20/40 in this eye, but I don't want to squint my eyes trying to look at it.
How about I just push this one then to the next one from 189?
That'll be great.
We can just push
Yeah.
189, because 189 is a building program,
Yeah.
smaller, and it may change based on what Health and Ed decides on too.
Yeah, that'll be great. I'm so sorry, but I really appreciate having the printouts. I really, really do.
I'm going to connect real quick and just do a quick to show you revenue as we're about to start looking at 141. Ooh. So I thought. And I'll zoom in so that everybody can see. So we have looked at this every single month, but it's just, again, a review of here is kind of how it looks, and this is the big fund that we're looking at, 141, our general purpose school fund. And this is just showing you, again, Fund 141, where our revenues come from, so that everybody can see where our revenues come from. Property tax is $84 million for our general purpose, and you will see local option sales tax is $93 million. And then we get down to where do we get the bulk of our funding is that BEP, Basic Education Programs, $267 million. I had a conversation with a board member last night. When do we expect our revenues? We normally don't get our revenues from the State Department until April or May at the very earliest. We don't get a final one until July, which is after our budget's probably is already passed, which is very frustrating to not know exactly what you're doing before budget's passed. But our fiscal year runs from July 1st through June 30th. This year, we all are very well aware that our overall operating budget of revenues was $464 million, but we were spending $493 million. And so we're 28 point something million in the negative. We've been 10, 15 million in the negatives for years, and we normally don't ever go into the deficit. That's just how we budget. But as we start looking at some of these things, and kind of talking with Brian, do you want to hit a little bit on kind of where we look at from these different lines and accounting codes? Because that's where we're going to spend most of our time is in the 141. So we have a budget calendar that we adopted in December and looked at. We're slowly kind of starting to talk about each fund, 141, 143, 177, all those different funds. We'll do some of this at our retreat, but ultimately we're kind of doing building blocks to get to where we approve the actual budget in April so that the county commission can approve it in May. Health and Ed, so that the final county commission can approve it in June. And so it is a long stair-step process. Brian, you want to go through just a little bit?
Well, let me preface this by saying what you see, these numbers you see on here, what they are is part of the chart of accounts that is adopted by the comptroller's office. So basically what we have to do is use these numbers. They're not numbers I made up, not numbers that anybody previously before me made up. It's just what's in the chart of accounts. And what regulates this is TCA 49-3-16, which provides a foundation for the budgeting and reporting requirements the district must adhere to in order to be in compliance with the state statute. So basically what we've got to do with this, we've got to provide the state with our budget. And then at the end of the year, after all the spending is technically done, it's not done, but we've got a stopping point at June 30th. we have to report those expenditures all year in an annual financial report back to the state. So they take all these reports that we send and they use it, when you see the state report card, a lot of that information is reported in there. The per pupil expenditure report, which shows different demographics of schools within the district. For example, it could take two schools of similar demographic and similar population, and then say one school receives more funding than the other does. It kind of shows why, you know, if one school's achieving better than the other, it will actually, you know, show that. And so those are the things that the state will come back and say, why, you know, what is the reasoning for this school that may be receiving less funding, being a better achieving school than the one that's receiving more? Is our funding, you know, is it not being applied correctly? Is there certain areas in instruction or whatever it may be that may be a problem? So, I mean, that's what the per pupil expenditure reporting does, and then, you know, it's just an overall snapshot of where you are at the end of the fiscal year. So, I mean, with revenues, as you can see, we budgeted less revenues, but when we're talking about budgeting, you've got, I think the biggest thing that I try to tell everybody is it's an estimate. We don't know throughout the year exactly what all we're going to spend because things come, things go. So we don't necessarily know. So, but we try to be as conservative as we can be with it. But yet, if you're too conservative with it, it generates a large fund balance, which technically, if you build large fund balances, it becomes illegal with the state statute. So we can't keep a huge fund balance. We like to build a decent one because we are required to, for our not our MOE, but for our 3% fund balance test that we have to pass with the state. So we have to have at least 3% of operating expenditures at all times in our general purpose account, because if we don't, then the state will not pass our budget. Even if it makes it through here, makes it through the commission, they will not pass it.
And we have close to a 10% fund balance.
We're close. We're a little bit under 10 right now. It's about at 9, especially with the little bit of the deficit that we're in. But and
You
some of the
normally
fund
try to
balance.
do it 30%.
Three.
Oh, 3, I thought you said 30%.
No, and we want to be above 3. If we get close to 4, we don't have enough cash flow to pay bills. So we're so big, we have to have more than 3.
So we're technically, we can say 10% is more of a comfortable number,
10% might be a little high.
a little high.
Yeah, and so I want to give
So that'd be
credit
high.
to where credit is due. Foreign administration did a good job on making sure that we were saving funds. So I feel like that is a fair thing to say. Board as well.
So the only thing I got really left to say is these numbers, they all are components. They all mean something, which, I mean, I could sit here all night and go through this. And as y'all know, I'm a numbers person. I remember everything on numbers, not necessarily titles, but numbers. But I don't want to bore everybody, and we don't have that much time. So this is an area that I think whenever we do have our retreat, I can sit down and go over every bit of it with you and explain what's actually for direct instruction, what's for student support, you know, what is your non-classroom line items and accounts, and how they all work. Because I think in the past, it wasn't portrayed, it wasn't transparent. And that's my goal, is to make it transparent, because throughout this whole process, especially in the departments in previous years and what I have seen, it's been difficult for them to understand what has been approved, what they're supposed to charge their expenditures to, and that's my goal, is to make sure that everybody understands that and be transparent with it, because at the end of the day, it's not my money. It's not your money, it's the taxpayers' money. So, and we got to be, as I've heard many times, good stewards of the taxpayers' money, and that's what my goal is. And I'm not one of those people that will not tell you anything you ask. I mean, I'm not just going to let you put it out there and say, you know, make it up, because I have, you know, I have to abide by what the state wants. I have to abide what the district wants and what the county wants. So it's one of those things that we can provide whatever you need, whatever information. It's just something I can't do in 20 minutes. I can't do it in 30 minutes. Just for a grasp of it, it took me 7 years at the state to get to where I'm at. So, you know, I mean, it's one of those things that takes time. But I'll be glad to help y'all out with anything, especially at the board retreat.
The retreat, if you can tell us in the scenario when, for PO purposes, because I know the fiscal year is in the middle of a year, so if you've got a PO that it's really technically supposed to be next year's budget, how that factors in, or there's a PO that is still for the following year, but the PO was a month later and the budget is over. So if you can explain that in the
Yeah,
retreat,
I'll
that'd
definitely
be
go into
great.
that with you, what a prior year PO is and what an encumbered amount is.
Yeah,
Because they're
that'd be
two
great.
different things. I mean, technically, they flow the same way.
Right.
But a prior year PO is a PO that's already been obligated last year, and an encumbrance is something that is going to occur in the future. But I'll explain all.
Yeah, but the funding is in there because
Yeah.
we're using different budgets, so.
Yeah,
if you
so
can-
it's crossing years sometimes, so.
Yeah, if you
but-
can explain that.
And we try to liquidate those as much as possible, so it's 99.9% none of them out there.
Oh, well,
Because
that's great.
That helps us from an auditing standpoint. Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I was going to say thank you, everyone, for looking at this, because I know everybody, we've got some new people in place. We're also in a position where we've had such growing pains, and that's why we've got a lot of, different things that are going on in the departments and everything, so.
Really, one of the main things I want to call to everybody's attention as well, we normally, as part of the budget process, the last 2 years, it has been, let's take this 71-100, for example. You're looking at 71-100, and line 116 is teachers, and we would say you have a 7% increase in the teacher line item. That's not going to be accurate this year because we are realigning quite a bit of things. For example, we have, from this salary study, realized that we have people not coded to the right place. So you may see somewhere that goes up 400% and somewhere that goes down 900% because we are moving people around. So that's not going to be a good barometer. We'll have our percentages for the entire areas and departments, but as far as an individual line that's salary-based, those are going to be off. So
We got a lot of cleanup this year.
lots of cleanup. Yep, and it's just, it's part of the growing pains. I think Mr. Young has something.
I would like to encourage the board and really all of our constituents to go back and listen to our mayor yesterday on Action Line with Bart Walker. He got into some discussion about our funding and how we raise revenues. And that's one of the problems we've had with this county for several years. We don't have a spending problem, we have a revenue problem. And we don't bring in enough revenues. That's one reason we have the 160 portables we've had for how many years? That number's not going down, it keeps going up. So we have got to try to do something to increase our revenues in this county. And that's part of his discussion on the radio show yesterday, so.
Because we can't go out and raise funds ourselves. That's not our business.
Yep.
We're not in the profit-making business.
Dr. Anthony has a quick insurance update.
Today at our insurance meeting, we talked one area about our voluntary plans, that we're looking to stay another year with those plans and stay with the county general, and examining that possibility with them. It would be one thing that everybody already understands what they can have for, like, for instance, short-term disability, critical illness plans, and still having to have something completely new. So the county general is looking at that. We would administer our side, of course, but there would be no additional increase in same coverage. And then also, one of the areas that they discussed was the number of representatives on the insurance committee. Currently, although in the past we've made up of basically about 75% of the employees own insurance plans, we've only had 3 to be voices in voting rights, our REA representative, and then Brian and myself. But they are rewriting that and asking for us just to have 1 voice only, so going from 3 votes to 1 vote. But we still have several, employees that have, such as our retirees that are on the county general plan, as well as our OJI and of course these voluntary products. So we're hoping that we can change their minds. We had 3 votes, of course, against that, and the rest were for it, the change.
So that is part of being part of with the county. So the county is still under that. You guys left us and pulled out, even though that necessarily wasn't, we chose the best interest for us. The county had that same option as well. But the political fallback from that is still, REA is going to be looking to do a letter of support. As I told REA today, quite frankly, I don't think it's going to matter. There's enough votes and enough support from the insurance side to the county commission to limit us to 1 vote because we left their plan. So Last thing, I want to go over director's report, and I hope this is some good information. We all hear about discipline all the time, so there's a couple things I want to point out. One, this, and I have a copy for everybody right here when you leave as well. So this is from TSBA, and I verified with Ben today that this is a student discipline guide for board members. I don't know if board members have seen this. I hadn't seen it till today. And so this is from 2022. I don't know if you've ever seen it either. So I Googled it and found it today. So I don't know where it was hidden, but it found this today, and I haven't read it yet other than to see that it goes over the different laws that go with it, and this is getting to our overall discussion. It is updated as of this current session. When the new session ends, it is going to be outdated, but I have a copy for everybody to look at. But the biggest thing I wanted to hit on is that our team has really been working, and this will only take me 5 or 6 minutes to kind of go over real quick. Our team has been looking at how can we address behavior, and so part of that is budget pending. But we talked about our budget priorities are going to be around staffing, around behavior, and then around our program, or around our buildings and construction. So this is what we're looking at for our beginning of our behavior structure support. This started in August because we realized very quickly we had an issue that we had to address that was burning, and it has been a team that has really been across departments. Dr. Chastain, Dr. Ralston with special education, Dr. Goyen, our attorneys, transportation's been involved. It's been truly a mixture of everybody, but it really goes around 3 different things. So 3 key areas. Again, we began in August to address student behavior and teacher retention, and I'll send this to everyone when we're done. One of the key areas is we want to remove responsibilities from classroom teachers and support our administrators. So 3 main spots. First one is staffing, second is space, and third is training. So let's talk about staffing first. So you'll see these different markers beside it. If it's in bold, that means we've already done it. If it's in kind of the less check mark, that means that is part of our plan for this year. If it's a question, that's something we need to look at for this coming school year as part of the budget. So the first thing the board supported an ISS EA, or Behavior Intervention EA, as part of elementary school's last year's budget process. So elementary school before last year truly did have nothing. They didn't have anybody to help outside of basically their administrators. So the board approved that last year. This year we're looking to put a behavior interventionist position, a certified person, into each elementary school as part of that upcoming budget request, as kind of a partner between the two. Looking at also a possible alternative school for 3rd through 5th grade. We really have 3 different options that we'll kind of talk about the retreat. And then also looking at additional admin support for a possible position for our schools that have, you'll see, an ASD and BIC. So ASD is our autism spectrum disorder classrooms, and then BIC, our behavior intervention classrooms. And so if a school has one of those, we probably need to give them additional admin support, because that is an additional load that the school is having to bear. So that's at the elementary level. At the middle school level, administrative support. So I love what the salary study has done. So our schools, part of what is hard for our schools is our schools are so big. And we get to the point, yes, the county commission has asked us to build big schools, but we have to support those administratively. I know we don't want to put administrative costs in, but when we look at how just take the BEP recommended formulas right now, we are so underfunded for what we need administratively. That's part of the issues we have. And so what the salary study group has is they actually had an assistant principal of special populations. What that person did was they handled everything with special education, and they were specialized. They handled special education, 504s, IEPs, behaviors. That was kind of their role. You'd hope to have somebody that has special ed background in that. We were looking to add a 5th assistant principal into our comprehensive high schools anyways. We started at Rockville last year, looking at Smyrna, Stewart's Creek, and kind of adding to all of them, that they're so big, and that's something we're looking at that's budget pending. Middle school, looking at our admin and staffing ratio. Right now, we have an assistant principal. Once you hit 1,200, you get a 3rd assistant principal at the middle schools. Most of our middle schools sit between, of course, our 2 huge ones, Blackman and Rockville, but that doesn't mean we don't have our huge middle schools that are sitting between 1,000 and 1,200, and they're stuck in that middle of, great, I don't have enough room to put anybody else there, but I still have 1,000 to 1,100 kids and I need help. And so looking at that staffing ratio. And then alternative school, adding additional seats. And this is the one that has the biggest impact right away. Adding 2 additional positions and 1 additional position to Daniel McKee and 2 to Smyrna West. That gives us 20 seats extra at those schools. And then right now we have a split instructional coach at Daniel McKee and Smyrna West. If we add 1 additional instructional coach position, we can then put one of those coaches' responsibilities as being there running the virtual program for that alternative school. We don't want to put the virtual school as where we send students for alternative. If we do it through Rutherford County Virtual School, that is such a small school, it's going to impact their accountability. They're under 350 students now, and if, let's say, we assign one kid there, that kid decides to drop out, that's going to have very devastating effects for that school's graduation rate, and they very well could fall in the bottom 5% just because us placing students there. We already have the alternative school, so we go ahead and look to add that programming there. School counselors, so a multi-year plan to have at least one school counselor available at the elementary schools not involved in related arts rotation, music, PE, art, so we've started working on that. Then looking at additional counselors at elementary schools. Stewart's Creek Elementary, for example, is over 1,300 kids and has the same number of counselors as some of our schools with 700. Those are different schools. They need different needs. Add additional counselors to all comprehensive high schools. That is a budget priority for this year. So they are supposed to be 1 to 350. We fund somewhere between 1 and 500 and 1 and 600. And so last year we added one to Rockville and Stewart's Creek High School, even though we have just about the rest of the high schools that are within 300 kids of those. So we're requesting those. And then again, looking at the middle school level to see how do we fund that differently. So that's the staffing kind of aspect of it. The last part I will add for staffing is we have district behavior specialists in special education, and this is not just behavior special education, but just in general. We have them for special ed. Moving those to a home location instead of being based at the central office, they'll be based in schools. We are looking to add these couple extra positions. Oakland Middle School is interested in having a middle school ASD and BIC classroom. They already have a third assistant principal when they had their annex, so that makes sense. Plainview also has a behavior classroom right now. They have requested to partner that with the autism spectrum disorder. My request is going to be to add an additional assistant principal if that's the case, because that's a huge load. And then lastly, the staffing portion, a lead teacher and admin at each school. That could either be the assistant principal or a lead teacher that doesn't have their own caseload so that they can actually help when crisis kind of comes up. So that's priority one. Priority two is space. Having dedicated space at each school for a behavior interventionist at the elementary level. So we already are working on that with our principals. We've already talked about the additional ASD and BIC classrooms. High school has a RISE program, and we're revising that because every high school for the most part has one, but they're all run completely different. We've talked about the extra alternative school seats until we can figure out where a new facility can be, because we truly need a new facility, and then those 60 additional alternative school seats utilizing virtual learning. And last is probably the one that I'm most excited about, training. So new teacher support. You are going to see hopefully a new teacher induction program, so that'll be developed as part of our 2023 budget and kind of restructuring program. But then when we're looking at the other portion is we have Triad, and Triad is a Vanderbilt group and is very nationally known, and they are connected with the Tennessee Department of Education and other districts as well. And so they are going to provide de-escalation training for all staff in August of 2023 as we start. So it's a 2-hour training. They then are going to have touch points, and Triad really deals with autism disorder more than anything, but it serves just about all of our needs for de-escalation. They'll have 3 different touch points throughout the year for follow-up. Different schools can be a model school. We're looking to be a model district instead. Then we will have training and onboarding for all of our new SPED staff. So before a new EA or SPED teacher is hired, they have to go through a district training first. And then they also are developing a 90-minute board-specific training as well for school boards across the state. So very excited about that portion. And last, crisis prevention. So CPI is kind of the company's name. And so we want to get away from using the company's name because necessarily there wasn't a problem with using the crisis prevention tools. It was all the other parts that we didn't have in place to support it. And so redoing that and then just bringing consistency across the district. So kind of our next steps, we'll go over it in the budget process as where we're adding these. It's not as big as you think, but it's definitely a district priority. And then I know our team is working on our presentation for our executive session on Monday night. So just want you to see that we're definitely working on what to do around behavior. And these are just some of the initial stops that we're working at. Our principals are aware and we're excited to get it going.
Awesome. Glad to see it.
So, Ms. Rosales, did you want to add? Okay, just checking. So, general discussion. I have one, Blackman Middle. On March 18th, they have a percussion fest. So, it's 9 a.m. to 3:30. March 18th. So, And just 9 a.m. to 3:30. I can send, if you want the picture. I have it and Ms. Darby has it, so. And also an update on Jazz Fest. We're well into planning this, and it's going very, very well. You'll probably see some people asking for some money so we can get our headliners. We need some sponsorships. Ms. Darby or Ms. Maxwell, would you like to say anything about?
Just super excited. I mean,
It's going well.
3-4 meetings now, and things are moving along. We've got a date, May 6th and 7th, and the schools are all getting signed up, and they're excited to come, and we've got some headliners coming, and I'm excited to see them. So I think it's going to be a wonderful event, and I can't thank the Fountains enough for giving us the opportunity to have it there.
And every week, we have someone who's been involved in it historically come forward to volunteer. So this is just an all-volunteer staff. It really wasn't going to be a Rutherford County school system thing. It's just happened that the three of us were, board members were on there. But it's going to be phenomenal for our students.
Now, we have one principal here with us I forgot to recognize. We have Dr. Kyle Nix, who is with us from Christiana Middle School. So I always like to recognize our principals when they're here attending. So thank you, Dr. Nix, for what you do.
We had our first meeting of the Arts Committee this morning.
Yes, please.
So for any of my arts teachers that are watching out there, we are going to be putting out a needs assessment to see where our committee can help fund some of the things, whether it be extra instruments, sound equipment, some different things like that. We kind of want to gather a general consensus of what our arts community in our schools is lacking or in need of, and so be on the lookout for that.
Anybody else?
Last thing I'd like to say is I'd like to thank Ms. Bratton for the idea to wear the supportive shirts at the work session. It was great.
Wasn't your board shirts, though, was it?
No, it wasn't
Yeah,
board
wasn't
shirts.
We're still waiting
Those are
on
still
our
being
board
shipped.
shirts.
Yeah.
It was me.
We're still waiting on our board shirts.
Thank you, Kate.
And
We had
also,
a good time doing it.
yes. Also, thank you all for putting things together for our SROs. I received several emails, and I know they were very appreciative of the little goodie bag. Well, it wasn't really little after we put them all together, the goodie bags that we had for them. So if there's nothing further, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you so much. We are adjourned.